Hello, Gorringes are on view this time for our sale on the 17th of October. Various things to look at in the warehouse, but we thought we'd have a poke about in the smalls room today, see what we can find. So what have we got in this sale? As always, a complete mixture. Look at this lot. There's a rather large quantity here of pottery with press moulded decoration, I suppose. It's been pushed into moulds. It looks rather curious. Dan says it's all Indian. I'm looking for lot numbers. Is there a lot number there? No.
I can find it otherwise.
I just want to make sure it's in the sale. 1404, 1408. It looks like 1403 to me. Yeah, it's got that, some of it has that sort of Turkish look, that sort of Samarkand or what have you. But yeah, Indian pottery, unusual mixture of assorted flasks and jugs. Probably lot 1403. Back here, if you fancy some Waterford and you like the pattern, there's a suite or part suite of these glasses. You've got the larger goblets and intermediate size, and then dropping down to something smaller. Quite a good run of them. That is lot number 1419. There are various paintings in the sales. You mentioned this one, didn't you, Martin?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, it's quite bright, isn't it?
1604. So this came from a property in Hove. It is just a decorative picture.
Yeah.
So it's signed, it appears to be signed D. Hughes. We look at the back, that's not a great quality stretcher. Look, it's just put together with staples. So I think this is just made as a decorative bit of wall filler, but it is a genuine oil painting. It's got a certain look to it. Saw that someone's wall, you wouldn't really know whether that was by someone good or just a sort of splodge. Anyway, lot 1604. Make your own mind up. At 1402, this looks sort of Benson-esque, I think we would say. What do we mean by Benson-esque? Well, W.H. Benson, maker of arts and craft, mostly copper and brassware. This little lamp is slightly curious. It appears to have a plated finish. This hook is a clue. I think you can hook it onto the wall.
Yes.
Or you can perhaps use this hook here. And then, just to add to the fun, it moves with this little nut to tighten it, so one can adjust it. So I guess you've got a desk lamp, a wall light, and a walkie-roundy light to some extent, multifunctional.
Yes.
Lot 1402. We saw posher versions at the Battersea Fair, didn't we?
We did, didn't we?
We did,
yes.
and even posher versions in Liberty.
Yes.
That's a less posh version. Might be a rare model though.
Yes, it might
You never
be.
know.
Yes.
Yeah. So carrying on, drifting past squirrels and things. This one even has its own carrying case. Look, grey squirrel it says.
And the other one.
And this one has partridge mail, it says on the box. So not only can you acquire this fine example of taxidermy, but you can transport it around with you. So you don't just have to keep it in one place. It's great, isn't it? Amazing.
Oh, and look at the
happens.
bear. You like the bear,
So we like the bear. 1431.
Christmas
So
coming.
nutcracker.
Yeah.
Not the biggest of nuts, but anyway.
Oh, I don't know. I think you're quite a big one.
Black forest, I would say. Quite nicely carved. Nice little inset eyes. Lot 1431.
He's great.
Up on the wall, fancy a Frenchman. 1601. From the same property as the other painting we were just looking at, but this one is a bit older. It is quite a lot older, in fact. This is 19th century. It's of the period, as we say. How do we know that? Well, just because we make it up as we go along, mostly. But in fact, we have a lovely old stretcher here. What can this tell us? Well, one of the things it tells us is it's been to Christie's at least twice, possibly more. So these stencil marks on the stretcher were applied by Messrs. Christie's, and you, in the old days, you could phone up and say, "Can I speak to archives, please?" And they'd put you through, and it sounded like sort of, "Oh, hello, how can I help you?" And you'd read them off your number, and they'd say, "Oh, we'll phone you back." Usually, or occasionally, they'd look it up there and then, but very rarely. Usually, they'd phone you back. And they'd say, "Oh, this came up for sale in 1948 and it's over 28 guineas
brilliant.
to Lord Johnson," or whatever. And other times they'd say, "Oh no, it doesn't really tell us anything, it just came in and went out again." So that service is less available now. It's that, you know, it's our own private information. Why should they share it with everybody else? But can be accessed by sort of researchers and the like. Anyway, this tells us it's been to Christie's, old stretcher. Rather scruffy looking canvas upon it, so one always has to question, did it always start on that stretcher? But perhaps it did. And then we have this portrait here of this army officer The canvas has been relined, stuck onto a new canvas. It's rather flat. It's a little crushed in the paint where it was pressed down onto the new canvas. But Wizzos will be able to work out from this, the 13th Regiment, quite possibly, certainly which regiment, possibly who he is. These are French, I think, decorations. So Croix de Guerres and the like. So possibly it can be worked out who he is. So that's a bit of fun, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's lot 1601.
Yeah, very good.
And buyers tend to like a man in uniform. So there we go. What else we got for you? Dan's been busy. He's been making 18th century Delft pottery. Isn't that weird of him? But there we go. So we've got a whole run of it down here, and he's picked out the better items for the December fine sale, but he also has quite a few in for this sale here. 1368 is a start. This is a Delft with a capital D means that it's come from Delft. Delft with a lowercase d means it's a Delft type ceramic, but could have been made in London or all sorts of other places. Liverpool, Bristol, not just the UK. So anyway, 1368, he says this is Delft, as in with a capital D. It's around about 1700. It's manganese, is this purpley coloured colouring, and blue. In the Krach style, which means it's in the Chinese style. So the Dutch are copying the Chinese ceramics that have come over, emulating them, trying to cash in on it, I guess one might say. That's lot 1368. Dan suggests that's £200 to £300. Other items of similar Delft, we did look up some earlier to save you waiting. Lot 1356. So this is Delft again with a capital D, as in Dutch Delft, and this is a marriage plate. It's commemorating the marriage in 1779, so a little bit different. Estimate 150 to 200. There's a run of tiles, Delft tiles, as we can see, of all different sort of subject matter. More recently, one sees them down the side of fireplaces in the late 19th century, but much earlier to that, used decorating the walls, inset into the walls, all sorts of subject matters. Some nice mixed lots here. Here's a single one, lot 1351, a bit larger than usual, and Dan's called that 18th century and says 150 there in its frame. There's a more traditional, again, that's a very typical bit of Delftware. 18th century, Dan says 150 because the pattern is not uncommon and it's a little bit of fritting around the edges, which again you get a lot on that sort of slightly friable ceramic. Travelling slightly further afield, and that creaked as I picked it up because it's got a crack running through it. 1348, this is Spanish. So strictly speaking, then we would call that Maiolica, I suppose, in the manner of the Italian tin glazed pottery. Dan suggests this might be Talavera. Not a big estimate because it's not in the best condition. 50 to £80. And just for something slightly more different, 1346. This is Frankfurt Delft with a lowercase d. Again, in this Chinese style, the chinoiserie style of figures in the garden, copying Chinese ceramics. We've got a nice old label here on the back. It says a Frankfurt Hanning Delft circular dish, finely printed, circa 1720, £880, and it says provenance Hugel of Paris. So there we go. There's lots of extra information. We are saying £200 to £300. Condition seems pretty good, other than a little bit of fritting around the edge. So there's more Delft to look at should you require it. Ammonites, get your ammonites here.
It's huge, isn't it?
You like that, don't you? It is a whopper. It weighs a ton.
It's a little bit big to put on a stand, though, isn't it?
Yeah, I doubt it would self-stand. It feels like it's going to fall over without something, but it is a lovely big whopper. Was that 1380? Yes. We think.
No, it was 1378.
1378. Yes. There we go. Good, well informed.
Yes.
Coming along then, back this way. Let's have a look at another picture. Not a bad artist and not a bad subject. This is Charles James Lauder, 1841 to 1920. It's a watercolour. And why is it a good subject? It is because it is looking east from Lindsay Wharf. And it was Michael Bryan had it in an exhibition.
So I see.
In Cheney Walk and thereabout was the subject, 1984. So that part of the world, houses are not inexpensive, and therefore to have a little watercolour of your front garden, your street outside and the river. Estimate £300 to £500.
Nice.
Yeah, nice thing. That's 1612. Nicely framed as well, all ready to go. Often things need a lot of work done, but that one's good. Carrying on round, good. I see what you're doing.
Yeah.
You're filming everything, aren't you? So
I'm trying.
People see. Well,
Yes,
great.
get a bit of a
I'm told they
glimpse.
like that.
Yeah.
1327 miniature desk.
Oh, that's fun.
If you like that.
Yeah.
Chinese pots, as always. Cartoons. Let's do another picture. This caught my eye. This is lot 1622. Signed A. Thomas Smith. And I couldn't find much at all about A. Thomas Smith, which was disappointing because this has, the way it's done, this woodcut, has a bit of stylishness about it, which reminds me of, Power. There's an article called Power, another one called Speed, and they're more stylized, but they're not a lot more stylized. This is 1935, so it's a good period. You know, it's that sort of deco influence. So I thought this was rather good, but not finding anything more about A. Thomas Smith. I think the owner had done some work on it as well. So it's in at about £100 or so, but an interesting thing. And nice that it's rugby as well. Not a bad subject.
Exactly.
We've got some decoy birds. People like those. We've got a stoat in a travelling box that you can take on holiday with you. We've got a vole.
Is it
It's a
a
vole. Yeah. 13, 14. Should you want a vole, you can take through. You can even get that as hand luggage on EasyJet, can't you? It'd be fun, wouldn't it, at the airport?
Yes.
Carrying on. What am I carrying on? Waffling on as usual. 1271. I've picked these up. Haven't got a clue what they are. Let's have a look. They look like English porcelain to me, but very ornate. So it'd be interesting to see what we've said they are. Yeah, English porcelain, 19th century English porcelain, finely decorated, I would say. And we shall see, maybe they're Minton or someone like that. Anyway, the catalogue will tell. Dan will have looked them up. Otherwise, he spins around. We have got a microphone. You'll be pleased to hear it be coming one day. 1260, we had one of these in yellow not so long ago. Little Weems pig for your money. Impress there, Weems wear.
it went well, I think.
It did. Well, what did it make? 400, 500?
Yeah.
Yep, so they probably estimated about 2. Get it going.
So you're going to get behind the counter?
Yes, stay there.
I'll stay here. And look at fish.
Suddenly a shopkeeper appeared beside the till.
Yes, look at that.
What do you like first, silver or jewellery?
Silver, please.
Okay, silver. So standing out in the sale, as far as Roger's concerned, lot 1802. So we look at those silver candlesticks. This style is typically French, and 18th century French at that. And sure enough, Roger says they have a lovely set of marks, as in they're nice and crisp and legible.
Ah, yes.
There, and there, and there. And someone's also written Met on the side. So these are Louis XVI period, French, silver, and they're actually marked for Dunkirk, of all places, 1780. So quite scarce things, I would imagine. They have been, you can see the join, there's a line running up the middle there where they were made, which is not untypical. Loose sconces, again, as one would expect. Estimate 8 to 1200. Bit of a curiosity. Should have been fine sale, but the vendor wants a quick sale, so there we go. More candlesticks, 1836 this time. Not so exciting, I suppose. These are classic sort of Sheffield roundabout 1910 or thereabouts, but not a bad little model with the swags. I'm not sure why we're holding this on with tape, because it's come loose. So that might need some attention. Lot 1836, estimate 150 to 200. If you're into golf or you've got a golfing friend, 1808 ought to be for you. Look at that. So he is
Silver.
putting, yes, silver and leather.
What does it say?
It says
44.
Boot Manufacturers Federation 44th Annual Meeting, Northampton, September 1934.
Great.
You don't get a lot of those, do you?
No.
And then nice ebonized wooden base. It's a cigarette box, quite clearly, when you've got that lining. That's 100% cigarette box, but kind of fun. Nice little
Very
bit of golf memorabilia there. Roger said 150 to 200 on it. And then jewellery. Picked out a few items to show you.
I like
Haven't seen
that
these,
Rolex.
have you? The Rolex. Okay, so yeah, let's do that first.
That's fun.
1933
Yeah.
is a 1960s, Roger says, steel cased Rolex Precision. What does that say below Rolex? oyster date, which is what it is, the oyster model, waterproof in theory, with the date, so it is what it says. Center seconds. So that's the curiosity. The yellow is thought to be what they call a later custom dial. So probably not done by Rolex to give it that bright colour, but thought to have been done in or near period, but later than the original issue.
Right.
Looks to be otherwise in very good clean condition. Is it going? Use that technical method. That didn't move. Let's have a...
So
Oh dear, yes, the winder hops out.
When you say the face has been,
There you go. It's
the
going.
colour has been changed later on, but it's still got the Rolex
Yes.
symbol on. But so who would have done that?
Well, who would have done it indeed? I mean, these days there are people, I think it's like Bamford and what have you, that actually take Rolexes and bejazzle them and or reverse bejazzle them, make them go black, but this would be aftermarket. Yeah, in theory aftermarket is less desirable. Though it's quite nicely done. It's going, but the winder does come out when you more than it should.
Right.
So it's going to need a little bit of attention. So that's 1933. £600 to £800 estimate. Elsewhere in the jury, I had a quick smash and grab. You weren't there, so I just grabbed some bits.
I can see.
1875 is interesting, isn't it? Because it's tortoiseshell piqué work.
Yes.
Probably from, quite possibly from Italy rather than England. Victorian, had a little repair there. A cross is not the most commercial of things. Estimate 8120. Now, Roger says these have potential. 1909. Why do they have potential? Well, when everyone gets pearls, there's always that question, might they be natural? So we're thinking about how old are these pearls? We're looking at the shape of them, and the shape is irregular.
Excuse me.
That's quite all right. But could suggest that they're not obviously cultured with that perfect even shape. We look at the clasp.
That's pretty.
If we think that's the original clasp, then that's of the right sort of period, in that it's, what, 1900, 1910 maybe. One would have to have them x-rayed and get a test to be sure. And I think the view has been taken that it's not that certain as to be worthwhile, but there'll be some speculation upon them. So the estimate is £600 to £800 for those pearls.
And is that estimate veering towards that they probably are?
Yeah, it's sort of leaning that way. It's probably
Right.
it's probably halfway there, or a third of the way there.
So if they
one
were
was
definitely,
fully,
they would be...
they would be more. They would be perhaps 1,500, 2,000 or so, depending on evenness of colour and what have you, because the shape is quite uneven. But there we go. So there's a speculative lot, I'm told. 1877, still on diamond clusters, but this time a ring. Not huge, but bright stones.
Pretty.
Unusual setting, £200 to £300. 1911, that's rather nice.
Amethyst.
And a little bit unusual. Yeah, cabochon amethyst. Why are they cabochons? They're cabochons because they're
polished.
Yes, because they're polished. They're rounded and smooth like a pebble, with little diamond brilliant intersections. Just a nice little ring. That bit unusual. £200 to £300 estimate. How about an Essex crystal?
Had to add a dog, didn't you?
We do like dogs, don't we? Well, I
We
do. So there's a little fob with a compass.
Oh,
Yeah.
is
Nice
that for the
isn't
dog
it?
to
So you can
find its way home?
find your dog. So typically Edwardian or thereabouts for hanging on your Albert, your watch chain. Nicely made, a little bit of wear to these ball finials around the edge. Essex crystal to one side, compass to the other. Our survey said £150, worth all of that. 1917, now here's a nice little rummage lot. It's in at 300 to 400. Let's have a look, see what we've got. So that is a George III, sort of probably early 19th century, sort of like Regency, gold overlaid seal, fob seal, with a nice armorial, with a motto that perhaps we could look up and work out who it might be. So what's that worth? 80 quid, easy, 100 maybe. Another one, similar, a period one, a bit worn and rubbed. You can see soldering's been applied to repair it throughout, and it's just got a plain foiled, so there's silvered foil behind that to boost the colour and shininess of it. So that's less remarkable. Perhaps we're thinking that's 30, 40 quid or so. Here's a later one, gold mounted. The marks are rubbed away, But this is kind of late Victorian Edwardian, and typically bloodstone to one side and a sort of agate or what have you to the other. Here's another dinky little fob. Something there, some sort of, it says, they're always a bit tricky, so I have to read them upside down and back to front. It's a little memorial thing, basically, and that's quite cute. Then we have another George III or thereabouts, gold overlaid fob seal with a Roman style inset. So there's a chap looking like Caesar sat down with three figures. Are you seeing that probably better than I am?
Yeah, quite well.
Nice that. Now obviously speculation then starts, could it be an early one? If it is, they all go nuts on it. I don't think there's an early one, not a Roman one, but anyway, there we go. Keep going. One more of these swivel fobs from the Edwardian era or there with hallmarks upon it, nice condition. And finally this nice engraved sort of gold overlaid ring, and from it a coral hand clutching a pen by the looks of things, or a stylus of some form. Did it once go through and come out the other side? I think it did. Look at that. I don't think you'd have that showing. I think
like
it
a
might have gone
weapon.
through, and maybe there was more to it. Who knows? Maybe something's got broken off. But there's definitely a deliberate sort of steel coloured tip to that. So kind of fun. Nice little lot there.
I don't think it's a poisonous needle.
No, I don't think it is. I welcome your enhancement of the lot's potential. But yeah, that's a nice little group, isn't it? 300 quid. Yeah, have that. So there we go. Anything else you'd like to show?
That'll do. You've been
That'll do.
waffling
Waffled
on for
on long enough.
21
Okay, so
minutes.
there'll be 21 minutes. God
Yeah.
blimey. Get on with your lives. Stop looking at me. So there we go. The sales are on the 17th. Usual rules apply for viewing. Come along and view. If not, and there's anything you like, do ask for a condition report. We still get people saying, I bought that and there's a chip in it. And you think, well, you should have asked. We would have told you. Hopefully. So anyway, yes, condition reports, always think of those. Please come and clear. Please come and collect your any goods that haven't sold or that you haven't collected, that you've purchased, because we're filling up as ever. And we look forward to seeing you at the sale. Thank you very much.